I'm really, really excited about this fourth Employer Branding Africa Spotlight, which is a series that I kickstarted at the beginning of the year, really to showcase the amazing thought leadership we have here in Africa, but also not be close to the fact that we've got our more experienced counterparts in the rest of the world that can also add a lot of value. But predominantly, I'm looking to the African leadership that have got so much to offer, but have also worked across the world as well to bring unbelievable insights in that. So I must say, I'm really humbled and heartened by the response from the amount of purpose-driven individuals that responded to this webinar. And kudos to Carol, she's got an amazing following. So she's attracted such an amazing, vast amount of people from all walks of life, whether it be from educational institutions that are shaping, your new generational leaders, whether it be people that are in fact involved with growing a nature positive sort of food future that creates values for society and delivering a more sustainable food value chain. We've even had registration from the world's largest police organization that's joined law enforcement in combating transnational crime. So you can see the purpose is so, we've even obviously had recruiters and talent acquisition specialists whose purpose is to secure employment for those work seekers that are desperate to find employment, non-profit trusts driving positive change across the continent in women's rights, children's rights and governance. And the participation is truly inspiring. I didn't know that there were so many non-profit organizations and so many organizations paying forward and doing good. So it's been this has been a really humbling topic to talk about. And I'm really excited to obviously bring it home with Carol, sharing her such a wealth of knowledge and wisdom in her role at Mastercard Foundation. So I'm not going to waffle on too much here. I don't want to take on too much time here. The format really with the webinar series or the Spotlight series is if you have any questions, if you don't mind, if we can hold them to the end. And what I do is to actually share a PowerPoint presentation, not death by PowerPoint, but really just to put questions up so that if anyone comes in late, they know what questions we are addressing. It does make a difference. Otherwise, people come in, they hop in and they're thinking, okay, what are they talking to? What question are they talking to within the context of purpose shaping employer branding strategies and that? So that's why I put the presentation up. Not to hide behind the presentation, but merely just for ease of access. So I'm going to share my screen now and kickstart. Otherwise, we're never going to get going. Yeah. Let me just put it up quickly. Can you see it? Can everyone see it? Yes, yeah. Everything. Okay. So welcome again. And thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining Carol and myself. Just a little bit about myself. I'm the CEO and founder of Employer Branding Africa and have been running this agency for over 10 years now. My purpose is really to create an understanding for those companies that don't realize that without their people, they actually do not have a business and they are non-existent. So my purpose is really around that driving force, trying to create that understanding that your people are your most valuable resources or your most valuable assets. And this is what I've been driving for the last 10 years. I love getting up close and personal with people in the trenches, whether it be in plants, factories, wherever. I've done quite a bit of work across Africa as well, which has been fantastic. I like to get operational, get my hands stuck in as well. I'm fortunate to be staying in Cape Town, one of the most well-known tourist destinations and most loved tourist destinations in the world. I like presenting, I like workshopping, and I love conducting presentations and webinars like this with like-minded people that really want to progress, understanding that to remain relevant, you have to keep that connection with the people aspect. So that's a little bit about myself, and I'd love to hand over to Carol.
Thank you so much, Celeste, and thank you to all of you who've joined us. So happy to engage with you over the next hour. So my purpose is to put people into jobs and then to help them bloom where they are planted. That's how I would sum it up very succinctly. And that has guided the spaces I have chosen to work with and the career transitions that I've made over the years. Currently with the Mastercard Foundation, so I'm leading talent globally, and that involves identifying, attracting, selecting, and onboarding the right talent for the right role. And then something unique that we offer in our onboarding is we offer cultural onboarding, help our new hires to understand our work. And then also we create space at the end of the 5-day onboarding for them to kind of reflect on why they decided to join us in the first place, and then what impact they're looking to make over the years. And then what we do is at 2-year milestones in their career with the foundation, we bring them back together again and we ask them to reflect. So, is this still what you wanted to be doing? And how are we doing? How is it going? We give them an opportunity to reconnect with their peers, sort of tapping into each other, and then to realign, for the next phase of their career journey. Other things that are within my remit with my team is we then also manage careers within the foundation, performance management, reviewing talent, and also focusing on succession. So that's a bit about me. Thanks.
That's wonderful, Carol. And yeah, you do amazing work, I must say. And as I say, people were really excited to be participating on this webinar, just to hear about the golden nuggets that you have to offer in terms of driving a purposeful organization. But let's take a deeper dive now and just have a look at your past experience. Now, you've spoken quite generally about Mastercard and that, but what I would like to understand is there any one practical standout? You've spoken about the onboarding, the nurturing, the cultivating, ensuring that there's growth there afterwards, from when the person first came on board. But when it comes to that mutual beneficial outcome, obviously it needs to be beneficial not only for the employee, but also the organization. And obviously that alignment when it comes to the person's purpose and values, as it relates to the organization's purpose and values, needs to align. Otherwise, there might be a bit of a mismatch there, right? So I don't know if there's any standout insights or experience, whether it be within the Mastercard Foundation or with previous roles that you've held, Carol.
Yes, thank you for that. So one example with the foundation, so we're a values-based organization. So that's what we lead with in terms of this is how we work internally, and this is how we also engage, with other players in the ecosystem. So our values are listening, kindness and respect, humility, co-creation, and ultimately impact. So when we are looking for talent, yes, technical competencies are important. And I would almost say that's just half the requirement. The other half is, do your personal values and our values align, right? And that's what we're looking for in engaging. And what was very refreshing for me when I was joining the foundation is that as I interacted with people in the foundation throughout the recruitment process, I experienced the values. I experienced the authenticity in that experience. So the values are not just words, on a page or things you have to remember, that the team actually embodies that. And there's that consciousness, every day that we try and live up to those values in everything that we do. So because we are very intentional in sensing that, when we bring people into the foundation, we have then built a community internally of people who are very aligned in terms of we're all on a mission to serve and to make a difference. And that just makes the collaboration, the co-creation, the innovation that much more agile and impactful.
Wow, Carol. Sure. And I think what you've mentioned there, thank you for that, is the fact that organizations need to be intentional. I think, that word can't be used too lightly, as much as the word purpose can't be used lightly. And the fact that words do remain abstract unless you intentionally go about living those purposeful values. And that's what I've taken from this question that you've just answered now. And it's about finding the right mix. It's about finding that individual. You can't teach that to anyone. They've got those, and I think we chatted about this before when I actually invited you on the spotlight. We spoke about the fact that you can't actually, there's no stage production here. You have to, in fact, embody it. It's the way, it's your upbringing, it's your value system, it's how you've been groomed, it's how you've been cultivated and nurtured to be able to align with those organizational values, right? It has to be inherent, right? So that's what I'm getting from what you've said, yeah. And it's also, it's not a one-man show. I think it's so important that you collectively, as you say, are on a mission.
Yeah, and if I could just add why it's just so important to have your own purpose that is your well that you tap into, right? So then as you're doing the work, there will be times when times are hard, right? But you need to be able to tap into yourself, that intrinsic motivation. And we've also embedded the values in our performance management. So you have goals you've got to deliver. Yes, then when we're doing the reviews, we check, yes, you attained your objectives. However, how did you do it? And this is, how did you embody, how did the values show up in how you were doing the work?
Carol, thank you so much. I think moving on now, if we start looking at the authenticity behind, if you are a talent acquisition specialist or a HR director or a hiring manager, now there needs to be authenticity that you need to pick up in the manner in which candidates are engaging with you through their interviewing process. Now, my question to you, and I think this is a burning question to many people that are in the trenches with recruiting, is how do you determine if a prospective candidate is genuinely authentic about aligning with your organization's purpose during the interview process? And what signals do you look out for? Because they could weave you a complete, wonderful spider's web. And at the end of the day, when they do onboard and they land, you think, well, this isn't the person I actually interviewed. They seem so far removed.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Great question. The good thing is that, we're all humans. And as humans, we have these senses, right, that we apply and put to good use. Another way of sense checking and making sure that what you're sensing is correct is having panel interviews, right? And then a series of interviews. That way you're constantly checking, you're hearing other perspectives, because people sense different things. The panelists sense different things. There's being able to bring all of that together. But the obvious starting point is when you're meeting a candidate, you want to understand what attracted them to the opportunity, and to the organization. And that's where it starts. So the expectation we have is that you're curious enough to do some research into who we are, the work we do, and, some of the impact that we've made, especially since it's so, purpose driven. You will hear candidates say, I've been online and I've seen some of the work you're doing in the communities. I know some students who've gotten scholarships. So we are visible, and they also even have questions. They're following, some of our leaders. So as a baseline, just do your homework. Then we go deeper. So we're peeling the layers. We want to understand your why, and this takes reflection. This takes reflection because as you understand what we are trying to do, so on the continent, we are supporting young people, to access education and then to transition into meaningful and dignified work, right? And also providing access to finance. So that's what we are doing. So, and we're focusing on young women, especially because women have been historically marginalized. We're focusing on refugees, people living with disability, displaced people, youth living in slums. And for example, in my case, I was able to reflect and go back to my maternal grandmother and how she didn't have an opportunity to learn, but she made sure her children had an education. And I've seen how across the generations, our livelihoods have changed. So that's a personal story that I could bring and build the connection. So we're looking for stories that are authentic beyond, oh, I like what you do. Everybody wants to do good work. I want to make a difference. That's superficial. We need to go deeper. And this is how we test the authenticity. When we are attracting more senior candidates, they will tell you, you know what, I've been there, I've been around the world, I've made the money, but I want something more. I'm at that stage in my life now where I want to do more. So we also are checking where they are in their journey and how they will stick, and be committed to the cause. So those are some of the examples, that we're looking at. And somebody can't fake it in sort of a series of interviews. So eventually your true self comes out. And then we also do complement with psychometric assessments as a data point too.
Wow. And I think quite a different take, Carol, to how we sort of conventionally do our recruitment processes, which is really quite almost like tick box clinical in a way. You really have to, the candidate experience is quite different that you've just showcased now. It's around really scratching quite deep now and saying, don't tell me what you think I want to hear. Tell me, what is the fabric of your being? How have you grown up? Where do you come from? What makes you want to pay forward? And I think a lot of people also woke up, and I'm sure you can relate to this during COVID, to say, wow, this was quite a wake-up call. It really took the world by storm. And I do now look for something different in a company's value proposition. It can't just be performance driven or profit driven. It actually needs to go beyond that. I need to know I am making a difference. So that was really great, that example.
Yeah. And if I can just add just something else as well, is, when someone is excited, when we're all excited about something, it shows in our body language and in our gestures. That's what we're looking for. So the authenticity comes out on its own, right?
Yes, exactly. And it's not a staged situation, Carol. It's the real deal, as they say, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So, and just another question, and all of these questions, folks, the reason I've pulled these out are because they're burning questions for me, and I'm sure for you as well. Being a complete employer branding geek and that, when it comes to defining one's purpose in an EVP, my question is, how do you accurately define purpose as a key driver within an employer value proposition without it being misconstrued or sounding like every other EVP? Because let's face it, at the best of times, you have to, again, really dig deep to find a competitive, different, future fit, cutting edge collection of EVP drivers. And 9 out of 10 times these days, you will see purpose pitching up in one's employer value proposition as you'll see one of those pillars invariably popping up. So I've got my thoughts behind this, Carol, but what would you say is the best way to convey this in your eyes without it being looked at as, vanilla almost?
Yes. Yes. So I think in the era that we're now living in, right, talent now has higher expectations of employers. And those expectations are around, doing more for others. And this is the question talent will be asking to say, so, what are you doing to improve, livelihoods for other people? And I'll give an example. When I joined General Electric in Africa, then they were in multiple sectors, on the continent. They were in healthcare, they were in aviation, they were in locomotives, in power stations, etc. And their proposition was very bold, and that's what appealed to me. They said, we're powering Africa, we're curing Africa, we're moving Africa, right? And that in itself, if your interest was to contribute to Africa's transformation, and you could see how, yes, they were a profit business, but they are trying to solve Africa's challenges, right? And improve outcomes, economies for everyone. So that's an example. Another one that has appealed to me that I think does a very good job as well is Standard Bank, right? Even when you arrive at OR Tambo, you're just always seeing their billboards everywhere. And it's just short phrases. And it's just they're putting at the front the difference they want to make, what they are catalyzing, on the continent. So those are examples that I would put out there, but essentially an EVP has to be a win-win. And in an EVP, it's a positioning to say, this is what we are doing, right? If you have something to offer to contribute to this cause, then that is where the open invitation comes. And that's the point of self-selection, where you opt in or you opt out, right? So subtly, that's what's actually happening. If that doesn't resonate with you, then you will not answer that call. So that's how it all starts.
Those are great examples, Carol. And I think, again, it's really about the narrative behind the word purpose, because, at face value, you've got the word purpose. So what does it mean to you, Carol? It might mean quite different to what the organization is trying to achieve, to how you perceive it. So it's around unpacking that. It's around that narrative. It's about defining it. Otherwise, they are prone to make up their own definition, or they go on assumptions, or they go on perceptions, right? And I think, again, you can have the word purpose, but it goes for a lot of other EVP drivers, people first. Work well, be well. All of these EVP key drivers are words, and they might look the same until you as an organization define and unpack the realness behind it and how it plays out within your organization, because it's unique to every organization. And I like the fact that you gave Standard Bank, because there's so much competition when it comes to your financial institutions. And they always sort of put to the forefront in terms of, take the name of a financial institution away and put all their EVPs next to each other. They all look exactly the same. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. It's not easy. Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not. It's a calculated way of doing it, but it's also, I think it's important, because the organization needs to have it right, properly and clearly defined, in order to communicate what that ultimate purpose is. So the candidate is, or the employee is clear on that. Otherwise, they're going to be perceive things completely different to what you intended it to be, right?
Yes, and I suppose the task with EVPs is how do you make it appeal to everyone, right? There's so many
Yeah,
people out there,
exactly.
so much diversity. So getting it to be so that everybody can find themselves, different people can find themselves in
Yeah,
there. And EVPs have many aspects. So some of the examples I shared, they go deeper and articulate what they offer in terms of how you will work. That's something you can have opportunity to create and contribute to something. You can learn and you can grow, etc. And you had mentioned well-being as well. There's a lot more on offer that
yeah,
companies can offer right across that whole employee experience.
of
And
course.
something else I wanted to just say about purpose, I think maybe we are assuming that it's all about giving back, doing more for others. But my sense is your purpose may evolve, right? As you journey through life, depending on the stage you're at.
Correct.
You may be at a stage where what matters to me, what I need to do is I need to get X money or get this kind of experience. And then the next phase is this. So you define purpose as to what matters to you at that moment in time. And it can be very personal, it can be very individualistic, and that too is fine.
Yeah, completely. And as you say, it's so fluid, right, Carol? Because at the end of the day, we're moving through different chapters of our lives without getting too philosophical, yeah. But we are moving through chapters of our lives as we would do as an employee through your journey, through, whether you promoted, whether you were onboarded, now you're in a different role. So your purpose might change accordingly. So I agree completely. Okay, so, and maybe this hooks in nicely in terms of embodying a purpose-driven philosophy. What steps would you advise our audience to take in transforming their organizations to embody a purpose-driven philosophy versus being primarily performance and profit-driven, Carol?
Yeah, so I think this follows on from the previous question.
Yes.
And it's okay to be profit-driven. There are shareholders who want a return, and that is all good. But again, I think now there is this call and increasing expectation for moral leadership. And this is like, what more are you doing beyond that? So this is where you'll see in some organizations, they have their corporate social responsibility, initiatives. Some are setting up more foundations, doing more visible work, to make a difference and improve livelihoods and addressing, the challenges, in the various economies. So again, it's just that intentionality, that amplifying, that articulating it, not to tick a box, but to genuinely make a difference. And it's important, there's an opportunity to get staff involved in that. So there is not just something that's just carved off on the side. Give staff the opportunity, to even co-create how much more you could do. Something else to consider is, again, just knowing your talent and what it is they want, right? And then, they can help contribute and articulate this better. So I would say, those are probably just some of the things to make sure once you know them, what their interests are, make sure they align. Then that way they will stick, right? And then
Yes.
to become more engaged, it elevates their performance, and ultimately that's a benefit for the company. And as the talent markets become more competitive, right? What is the differentiator? The differentiator would then be the purpose. Because I could be an accountant at many different places, but I'll be now looking at what's that differentiator, what's that extra that'll make my work more fulfilling. Because we do spend so much time at work, it mustn't just be boring. It's like, how can my employee experience be enriched?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you also hit on the point on leadership. And I mean, it might sound cliche, but it's about leading by example as well. If you're not instilling that mindset or instilling that purpose-driven kind of philosophy from the top down, it's going to be very difficult for your people to sort of understand or move in the same direction as you, and also provide them with that platform, provide them with that space, provide them with the safety to do that. Get creative, get innovative, almost question, not in a negative way, but act as devil's advocate and say, why are you here today? Just, are you really living the purpose you started out with? Are you achieving what you really want? Whether it be, as you say, within the organization doing recycling, or whether it be you as a person wanting to, be a better person, or whatever. So, yeah, that embodying a purpose-driven philosophy goes so much further than just the individual. It is your leaders that have to walk the talk as well, right?
Absolutely. And, companies can look at where they operate, right? So they always say charity starts at home.
Yeah.
So look at the communities where they operate, and because that's the low-hanging fruit. And
Yes.
understand, what are the needs within our community,
Yeah.
and, how could we support? And there's also, now I'm seeing a lot more collaborations between organizations. So we don't each have to try and do something alone, right?
Yes.
When we come together, we can do more.
Correct. Lovely. Okay, then the big one, Carol, and again, this doesn't even go as far as purpose only. We can't even single purpose out, but in the context of our webinar today, how do we measure the purpose and the impact? How does one measure that, the authentic meaning, the impact, as you go about cultivating this culture within your organization? Yes, it's not a tick box approach, but where's that gold sitting in terms of seeing it land in the real sense?
Yes. So in our organization, right, when people join us, they're answering a call to serve. So our duty, the organization's duty, is to give employees that opportunity to serve. So we are very intentional that wherever we are in our operation, we give employees opportunities to go and meet the young people, to go and listen to their stories, and understand the challenges they have, understand what opportunities are for us, and then bring that back, into the design of our programs, right? So that we are designing programs that are fit for purpose, that will bring about the change. So, and this is an opportunity for all of us in the organization. So not just those working in programs, whether you be in IT or in HR, we've gone on the ground, we've gone to the slums, we've gone to the rural areas, right? When you meet the people that influence our work. Now, in terms of impact, and the culture. So it's a journey, right? And it's a living intention. It's a living experience. And what we do is at certain pulse points, we pause, and then we ask the stakeholders, we talk to the young people, we bring the youth voices in, we talk to the partners, and then we understand how are we doing, and we check ourselves. And then where we need to pivot, we pivot. So that makes sure that we stay true to our purpose. And for us, we have a very clear North Star that by 2030, we want to create 30 million dignified and meaningful jobs on the continent. So
Wow.
we're tracking those. So we track how many people we are touching. We track how we're converting those. And much as we understand, we're catalyzing a lot more within the ecosystem, some things, the fruits of which we may not see in our lifetime. So, that's how we measure. And it's all about impact, so qualitative and quantitative.
It's very powerful, very, very powerful. And again, it's about having that vision, right? Having the vision, moving towards it, and again, being intentional on how you are reaching those milestones as you're moving through that experience. Thank you for that. I haven't had any comments coming through. I think people are so in awe with what you have to say, Carol. All right, so we on the home stretch here, and I've purposefully provided 15 minutes for people to engage with you. The key takeaways in terms of, is there anything that your audience, low-hanging fruit, that they could implement and benefit from in terms of building a purpose-driven strategy within, employer branding as a key driver?
Absolutely. And, I'm looking forward to hearing other insights. I see there are some people working in the employer branding space or consultants here, who do help, companies through this. So definitely post-COVID, I think we've all emerged with different perspectives. I think we've shifted in terms of realizing what matters and how we want to live our lives and what we want to spend our time doing. So during COVID, the boundaries between work and home became blurred, so they were merged. And that merging has not reverted to what it was pre-COVID. So employees need, I just want to make sure that I'm not just doing a job. It must be meaningful. If I must leave my home, leave my children, leave whoever at home, and I go out there into the world to do work, it must be doing more than just paying the bills. It's got to be, just putting me in a different space where I'm making a difference and I can see that what I'm, contributing to, what I'm a part of, is something bigger than self. People want something bigger than self. And, I also advise people to look at, the Japanese have a very good model, the Ikigai model, right? And, it has sort of four circles. One where you need to understand that there's what people love to do. There is what people are good at. There is what they can be paid for, and what the world needs. So the nexus of that is where people find purpose, as human beings. So takeaways, in addition, just be more intentional, right? Make the employee experience meaningful, right? And listen to the changing needs of talent. Talent want flexibility, talent want experiences, and moral leadership. So beyond profit, right? Because profits are short term. But the question is, how do you want your story to be told as an organization? And the same as an individual, for the work you choose to do, how do you want your story to be told? And then just do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. So I think that alignment is so essential. It's pointless having someone that's really purpose-driven, living or working in an organization that has maybe lost their purpose along the way, or vice versa, because there's going to be not a conflict of interest, but there's going to be a misalignment, right? So are you getting the best out of that person if they are not connecting with the purpose of the organization, and vice versa, if the organization cannot see this person having that authentic kind of purpose outlook and is there for the wrong reasons, are they going to sort of be that collective one voice and moving in that direction that you're trying to cultivate?
Absolutely. Because without a clear purpose, then it becomes mundane, work becomes mundane, and there's toxicity and resentment, and you're not getting the most out of the people and the best outcomes for the business.
Yeah, completely. And just, this isn't on the presentation, but just for my interest, Carol, what happens if you've got someone who joins and they've just got what it takes and they are so purpose driven and they're so aligned to, to your mission and your vision and everything, and then they almost get lost along the way. They almost become directionless, or they don't have what they did have at the outset. How do you massage that? How do you actually try and get them back on track?
How to get their mojo back.
Yes,
It's how
100%.
to reignite their soul and their spirit.
There we go. There we go.
Yes,
You said it.
yes, absolutely. And, we were actually having a conversation earlier on today around, performance management, and where we see that maybe someone's just falling off the rails a little bit. The idea is to get close to them and understand what is going on.
Yeah.
It could be they're experiencing some personal challenges, and, it could be maybe they're in the wrong role. So this is when you know them and understand their skills and their capabilities and their interests, then, you explore what the options are. Could maybe we put you in a different kind of role, right? So there's options to explore that, or it could be some wellness support. And, we have that, an anonymous support offering that we have for employees that is totally, anonymous, and we don't get involved. So we provide the necessary support, as required.
Yeah, that's great. That's super. Thank you very much for that. So I've had a few comments, but just off the back of this conversation, my mission is to build the awareness around employer branding, and obviously purpose being a huge factor within the building of one's EVP and the intentional way of how one goes about building it from the inside and out. And that is what the Employer Branding Africa Learning Academy is about. It's about the knowledge sharing that we've just been doing with Carol now, but it's also about opening the minds to understanding that there's so much more to talent acquisition and retention. It's really about building something that's solid and purposeful and being intentional about it. So just wanted to put it out there, and then we'll get to the Q&As. That I have got live courses that I've started running. We've got one on the 27th of June, and it is, that's next week already. But I am going to be running them in Joburg as well. And obviously, as I say, purpose is just one of the factors that we do look at. And then there's the online courses as well that one can have a look at on the Employer Branding Africa Learning Academy. And it's really about your approach to these kind of topics when it comes to building that kind of philosophy within your organization, practical ways of going about it, getting up front and personal with your people, as Carol said, getting close, understanding if there is a derail or not. What do you do about that? How do you actually guide them towards that purpose and that vision? But so if anyone's interested, please look me up. Please go to the Employer Branding Africa Learning Academy so you can have a look at what we're doing there. It's very exciting because I'm moving, believe it or not, back into live masterclasses, because I just, again, believe that human connectivity is important. But I think in terms of the comments that came through, Carol, Kathy made mention, she said we are finding that more and more as critical conversations with candidates in our recruitment process, it's no longer just about the job, but the employer brand, with the company, whether the company lives what it preaches. And I think, again, that has to do with that whole mapping of the candidate and the translation of what is your company really about, whether it is a strong leaning into purpose. And that translation is so important. Otherwise, you're not going to get the right individual if you don't have your leader or your recruiter, or your TA specialist translating that correctly, right? And being one that does follow that purpose.
Yeah, and something very critical is, employer branding, we're saying this is who we are, and this is what we offer you, or we ask you to bring. Now employees or potential candidates are going to the markets, right? So to get proof points. So Glassdoor is one of those examples. So just like when you're trying to book a place on booking.com, you go and check what are the reviews of this place before I go, and you make a choice. Do I want to go there or not? So there is trust that is placed in alumni. So alumni are actually our greatest ambassadors of our employer brand. You also do see sentiments from internal employees. So that's a very critical data point, and it's something that all employers need to watch.
Yeah, completely. I agree with you. And it's the voice, it's the trusted voice. We trust people, right? It's about that person that's able to successfully convey and create that emotional connection with the organization. Otherwise, it is just going to be words. How is it for them? You know, tell me about it, a day in the life of kind of thing, as you follow the purpose of the organization, because there's that strong alignment. And then Kate, nice to see you on the call, Kate. What she says is there's definitely a gap in the candidate experience and employer branding that I've experienced. The EVP only seems to kick in after employment in certain instances, and the candidate experience is a nightmare. And I think, once again, to your point, Carol, when we chatted about understanding the authenticity behind that candidate and whether they are the right fit or the right alignment, and if you are the right organization for them in terms of your purpose-driven philosophy, you know, being quite brutally honest on this is what drives us. If it's money, sorry, it's not going to happen. So really putting those brutal facts up front, right? Because you do have quite a lot of desperate people out there that are looking for work, but are they applying for the right reasons? And what is that experience, you know, that you're providing them? So.
Yeah. And when we talk employee experience, then there's also candidate experience before that. And as candidates are going through that process, they're already sensing your organization. They're getting a sense of the culture. And this is where sometimes you may find, if there's discomfort, candidates pull out of the process.
Yeah. Completely. And it's also about how you serve them as well. Are you living that purpose? Are you serving? You know, is that part of your activity, or part of your purpose, or part of your drive? I'm just having a look at others. Paul says, really interesting insight, storytelling and authenticity are key factors in my view. Listen to your people and they'll help you go on the employer brand journey. And again, it's about the trusted voice, right? Otherwise, it's all just words. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Carol, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a great conversation. I wish we could speak for another hour because it's really, this conversation really was refreshing, and it's been wonderful having you as my guest speaker. It's been such a build-up. Carol and I have been speaking for weeks and weeks, and the excitement just carried on brewing and brewing. I think you were getting a bit tired of me, Carol, saying, so many people have responded, and can't wait, so many days, so many weeks, etc. So I've really, it's been really exciting and an honor once again. I'm really humbled to have you and your wisdom and your wealth of experience and just what you do. It's amazing. It's a lot of people can take a page out of your book. It really is admirable.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Celeste, and thank you all, and all the best on your employer branding journey.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Okay, bye.
Bye now.